Welcome to the top of the morning show. It is your girl TT from the D. I am happy to talk to you this morning, for every morning actually, but about voting. Like, are we ready to vote for 2024? Are you ready to cast your vote? Right? And you might say, yeah, no, I don't know, whatever that looks like. If you are 18 years old and you are ready to vote, it is getting ready to be time. Now, some people could have voted early, and some people are waiting to the last minute, right? Some people are voting online. It just kind of depends on what you want to do. I would have to say that, right? We're going to talk about this morning voter registration. Really how you can vote, the guide to voting, when and where you can vote, right? We're going to tap into that. But before I do that, I want to tell you, get out and vote. But no, seriously, it's not a laughing matter. Seriously, I want you to get out there and vote, y'all. Some places, some employers are actually giving you the day off, and you have no excuse, right? And so you're like, oh my God, it's coming up. When is voting? Well, I'm happy to tell you voting is next week, Tuesday. November 5th is election day in the United States, right? Now, you don't have many days left, I should say, if you want to say that. But I do want to tell you the best way. So you could have done early voting. Some vote locations are open before election day. So you would have to actually check with your state or territory and find out if they allow in-person voting, or check with your state or local election office to check out the early voting dates and rules in your area, because every state is different. Every area is different. Okay. You are definitely voting in person. Most people vote in person on election day at their local voting location. And when you arrive at the voting location, you'll see election workers ready to help you. Now, they should not be asking you, for those of you that are new to voting or never voted before, they should not be asking you, who are you voting for? That is nobody's business, not your mother's, your father's, your sister, your brothers, your friends, your neighbors. Nobody. It's yours. It's yours alone. And you will vote by selecting your choices on a paper ballot or by using an electronic device, okay? Voting by mail and absentee voting. Some states conduct elections entirely by mail. Others allow you to ask for an absentee ballot if you're unable to vote in person or simply prefer to every vote by mail, right? Each state has, again, its own guidelines, their rules, so you definitely have to check with your eligibility area in your state. Now, if you have a mail-in ballot, you might say, how do I return this mail-in ballot? Well, by mail, in some states and territories, as I said, ballots come with a prepaid return envelope. And others, you need to add postage to your envelope before putting it in the mail. And be sure to completely fill out your return envelope before sending it. Now, here's the beautiful thing about it. If you do not have a prepaid return envelope, you go into the post office anyway, you just buy a stamp and say, hey, I need to buy a stamp for this envelope and I need to get it mailed up. Now, you also can drop box or this, right? You don't need a stamp if you have a drop box at your local election office or official election ballot drop box. Many use drop boxes, but their location availability may vary. Again, you want to check with your local state. Now, learn how your vote affects your community so you can make an informative decision. Many election offices post sample ballots online. Some also provide information online or by mail of candidates and ballot measures, right? Because you might want to know about your state and local election people. If you don't know, you can get that information. I will tell you this is a big, big, big one. Voter ID is required. Each state sets its own voter ID rules now. In most states, you must bring your identification to vote in person and provide ID information when you vote by mail. Again, check your state voter's ID requirements. You can get an ID card at your state motor vehicle office. Even if you don't drive, you will need to pay to get an ID card. But there are organizations that may be able to help you with ID related fees. Okay. Now, if you do not speak English, if that's not your primary language and you want to vote in a different language, you can ask for help. Again, you must contact your state or local election office to find out where the support is for the different languages in your area. Okay? A family member or friend who can help translate for you at your voting registration is also a good idea, and they will allow it. Okay? If you or a loved one has disability, you have a legal right to vote. They have a legal right to vote. They must make it accessible, such as large print, right? Or in audio forms if you're voting in person, okay? If you also feel like if you coming in a wheelchair, you have a walker, whatever, they need to make sure they have handicap accessibility entryways for you, okay? This is unacceptable. And if you run into something that is not, you are asked to please report that. Okay? The federal law protects your right to vote. That's why it's so important to vote. Okay? You can report a complaint to the DOJ, which is the Department of Justice, if you experience any of the following while exercising your right to vote. Again, your right to vote. If someone is questioning you about your right to vote, report them. Report that location. If you live in an area that is required to provide voting materials in certain languages, but they don't have that, again, before you report them, make sure they are one of the locations designated to have those materials. And thirdly, you don't receive reasonable accessibility accommodations if you have, like I said, a handicapped loved one or you have a disability. Okay? Now, for some people, it might be a little bit too late, but you can still check to see if they still need poll workers, right? And this could be with setting up the voting location, a greeter to welcome the voters, right? Someone to confirm voter registration, hand out the ballots, help voters with voting equipment, like if you have a problem with the little machine or you need a pencil or blah, 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 right? Or if you've never voted, if you're a first-time voter, if you need help, they can explain it to you. Now, I will say this to you too. As a college student, I learned this when I was working on a campaign last year. I won't say the organization, but when I was working with them last year, I actually worked with them 2 years in a row, and along with the New Citizens Press. College students, if you are away at college and you're 18 or older, you can vote where you are if your ID is out there. But if you're still registered at home, your vote still counts at home. You can actually mail in your ballot or go online and do your due diligence, okay? Now, there are rules and regulations also for voting as a new U.S. citizen. You still have the right to vote because you are now a new U.S. citizen. All right. You don't need a home address to register and vote. Voting while unhoused. If you are displaced or as long as you are a registered voter, you are able to vote. You don't have to have an address. I just have to say it like that. And guess what? People who are convicted felons are able to vote. And it varies from state to state. As long as you're 18, you are able to legally vote. If you're voting as a military service member, you would have to learn more about that from the FVAP, which is the Federal Voting Assistance Program. That's Frank Victor Apple Peter, right? And then again, if you're voting as a U.S. citizen from outside the U.S., if you're in another country, but you are a U.S. citizen, you can find out more by going to the Federal Voting Assistance Program. I hope that something I said to you this morning about the voting struck a nerve and has you ready to rock and roll. It is always better to know more than you need to know than know nothing at all. Okay. I'm going to give you a scripture for today, for this morning. Let me see what scripture I want to give you guys. Let me see what we're going to talk about today. Let me see. Huh. Oh. I can't wait to get back to my marriage ministry leaders stuff in the 2025 year. We're going to be doing something here at the top of the morning show. And I'm hoping it'll spill into my live streams as well. Definitely going to be praying on it, but definitely can't wait to get back to it. So today we're going to talk about Ecclesiastes 4-9. This is for my married people. All people, but really my married people. And it reads as follows. 2 are better than 1 because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. Also, if 2 lie down together, they will keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? That is the scripture for today. Until the next time we leave footprints across the sun, it is your girl TT from the D, and I'll see you soon.